Have you ever wondered what are the most profitable monsters in old school RuneScape? With what seems like thousands of monsters spread all around the game, I wanted to find out which ones were the most worthwhile. And after searching all over and using years of gameplay experience, welcome to the list of the 100 most profitable monsters in old school RuneScape. The goal of this video is to make an easy to understand, always relevant guide to everything money making in PVM. Feel free to come back to this video whenever you need. And before we dive in, I'm going to be tossing one of you a full money-making melee kit. Just like the video, leave your RuneScape name in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe. Let's begin. The Foris Calum. The Foris Calum is a very difficult solo PVM challenge, being a spiritual successor of the Inferno. Those of you who are successful will be awarded with the Dizana's Quiver for completing it. Before attempting though, it is highly recommended that you have the best gear that you can afford and maxed or very high combat stats. However, completions are possible with inexpensive gear. More importantly, do not expect to complete it on your first few attempts, so be sure to be mentally prepared to fail a lot and learn from your mistakes. That's how you get better at old school RuneScape. This requires the completion of Children of the Sun quest and makes 26 million GP an hour when you get good at it. Next is Ancient Prison is locked behind a frozen door in the southern part of the God Wars dungeon, and can only be opened by assembling the Frozen Key, whose pieces are dropped during the Frozen Door mini-quest by the generals and bodyguards of each of the warring factions in the dungeon. General Gordor, Perill, Commander Zelana, and Kriara. This in turn requires a base level of 70 hit points, ranged, strength, and agility in order to reach Nex, none of which can be boosted. Up to 60 players can fight Nex per encounter. Nex is known for her assortment of Zerosian affiliated drops, such as Torva Armor, Zarite Vambraces, the Ancient Hilt, and the Nihil Horn, which is used to create a Zarite crossbow. Nex is able to make you a whopping 17 million GP an hour in duo. But since this video is about the 100 best battles, this video is sponsored by War Thunder. The first step is to download War Thunder, an exciting large-scale PvP game filled with tons of action. This game allows you to take fights on tanks, aircraft, and battleships. You can play this game on Xbox, PlayStation, and Mac, or PC. War Thunder has insane graphics. Every single tank, plane, and boat you can name and can't name is in this game. It has modern military technology like guided missiles, drones, and even a nuke. These battles aren't just boats versus boats or planes versus planes either. All three forms of military vehicles are playable in the exact same game. This game is so ambitious it doesn't even have health bars. Individual parts of the vehicle get damaged instead. If you hit their track, they won't move, and if you hit their fuel tank, it'll ignite. War Thunder got even bigger with the Alpha Strike update, adding Hungarian aviation, community requests, even better graphics, and a new map called North Holland, so you can now fight in the Red Light District. Download War Thunder for free by using the link in the description. All new players and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more will receive some special bonuses. Rentals for the P-40E1 aircraft and M4 tank for a week along with 3 unique skins for them. A special decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, 3 premium vehicles for free, a week of premium account, and even more gifts. Hurry up, the American Vehicle bonus season will end soon. The Tombs of a Masket. The Tombs of a Masket is a raid set in the Caridian Desert, within the Jaltavis Pyramid, at the Necropolis. To participate in the raid, you will have to complete the Beneath Cursed Sands quest. Now, despite the name of the raid, the tomb is in actuality that of the Pharaoh Osmumpton, where you must help him drive a Masket away from his tomb by freeing the lesser gods of the Metaphite Pantheon from her control and stopping her from acquiring the divine weapons found within that would allow her to ascend to godhood. Up to 8 players may attempt this raid at once, and makes 15 million GP an hour if you're doing solo 500s, making it one of the best money makers in old school RuneScape. The Theater of Blood is a raid located beneath the castle of Vers in Haza. It is a large arena used by the ruling vampires to host blood sports, with the raid being featured prominently in the quest A Night at the Theater. The Theater of Blood is a linear raid, thus there is no randomization involved, and the bosses will always be encountered in this order. The Maiden of Sugadinti, a level 940 boss. Bloat, a level 870 boss. The Inoculus, a level 800. Sodaseg, level 995. Zarpus, level 960. And the final boss, Versik. Upon defeating Versik, a trapdoor will open under her throne, leading to a treasure vault, and inside will be up to 5 large chests based on the amount of players in the team, with each player being able to loot 1 chest, with an arrow pointing at which chest is yours to search. If a unique reward is obtained, a purple aura will emit from the chest. If no unique reward is found, the chest will contain 3 rolls from the common drop table, with the unique rewards that you can obtain from the chest including an Avertic Defender hilt, which is used to upgrade the Dragon Defender, any piece in the Justiciar set, a Rapier, a Sanguineschi staff, and a Scythe of Vitor. This content again is 9.7 million GP an hour if you're able to do sub 20-minute raids consistently. The Chambers of Zerich. Chambers of Zerich is a scalable encounter in that the team stats upon starting the raid will determine the strength of the enemies and quality of resources found inside. But if you're below 115 combat, you could speak to Captain Rymor, and he can scale your raid appropriately. Each raid consists of 3 floors, 2 floors of randomly generated rooms, and the last floor which contains the Great Olm, the final boss of the raid. There are 2 layouts that you can choose from, normal or large-sized rooms. The first 2 floors consist of 7 rooms, which house the entrance, exit, resource room, 1 or 2 scavenger rooms, and 2 to 3 combat or puzzle rooms. In large raids, these 2 floors will always be filled to the brim with 8 rooms, consisting of the entrance, exit, resource room, 1 scavenger, and 4 puzzle and combat rooms, with large raids that are being completely filled out, occasionally having duplicate puzzle rooms. Combat rooms are considered to be Vespula, Tecton, the Mutadiles, Vasa, Vanguards, Skeletal Mystics, Lizardman Shamans, and Guardians. Puzzle rooms are considered to be Crabs, Tightrope, Ice Demon, and the Corrupted Scavenger. Expected raid completion times will vary greatly, depending on your experience in the raid, prep times, and team size. Chambers of Zerich will make you a whopping 8.5 million GP an hour if you're able to get sub 25-minute runs. An absolutely awesome piece of content to complete in old school RuneScape. Vardorvis. Vardorvis is a dead vampire whose corpse is found in the Stranglewood ritual site, where you encounter it during the Desert Treasure 2 quest. This boss has a unique mechanic which every Desert Treasure 2 boss has, in which it drops a vestige, after rolling it 3 times at 1 out of 362. For this boss specifically, for the first and second time, it will simply roll a normal drop and invisibly tick up your vestige count. This boss is like every other DT2 boss and drops Virtus robes and a piece of the Soul Reaper axe. Vardorvis requires Desert Treasure 2 completion and makes 6.5 million GP an hour for anybody brave enough to defeat it. Kriara. Kriara is one of Armadel's most trusted generals. He is the most powerful of the surviving Avancy, and leader to the forces of Armadel's Eyrie in the God Wars dungeon. In order to reach the encampment, you must first wield any crossbow along with a mithril grapple. A range level of at least 70 is then required to navigate the chasm. To enter the boss room, you must have slain 40 followers of Armadel, with Avancy and their spiritual variants being his only followers within the dungeon. Like other God Wars dungeon bosses, Kriara roams around a rectangular room with his bodyguards until a player enters, attacking you on sight. He attacks primarily with ranged, and his bodyguards use a different combat style each. However, if no one is targeting Kriara, he will fly up to you and use melee attacks as well. If all players leave his room, his health and stats will be reset. Like other Armadelian followers, he and his bodyguards cannot be attacked with melee. This includes magic-based special attacks for melee weapons such as the Voidwaker. Armadel only requires 70 ranged and completion of Troll Stronghold and makes 6.1 million GP an hour. Venatus. Venatus is a large spider that resides in the Silk Chasm. According to Fabel Bile, Venatus is the last of her kind, who were hunted to extinction by dwarves. Venatus attacks a melee towards any player that is adjacent to her, and either magic or ranged for any player out of her melee range, with protection prayers fully blocking her attacks. However, they will have their effectiveness reduced for every spiderling alive in the chamber. Every 4 attacks, Venatus will shuffle to another position in her lair. Every 2 movements will cause her to alternate between ranged and magic attacks. When the fight starts, Venatus begins by summoning 2 spiderlings, who also increase her max hit along with reducing prayer effectiveness. The spiderlings will drain prayer by 1 for every hit made regardless if it damages you or not. However, they only have 5 hit points, and you will max hit on them every hit regardless of your gear. Venatus can also launch a sticky web that, if stood on, damages and drains you by 3 and run energy by 10 every few ticks. Venatus will always alternate between spiderlings and a sticky web after moving around twice. If 5 or more players are in Venatus's lair, she will move more often and perform a special attack every time she moves, as opposed to every other time. Venatus has no requirements but is in the wilderness, so you must be careful of PKers. But if you can prevail, you can make a whopping 6.1 million GP an hour profit. Commander Zelana. Zelana is the appointed leader of Saradomin's forces in the God Wars dungeon, and one of the only 2 living representatives of the Icene race in old school RuneScape. To gain access to her chamber within the Saradomin encampment, you must have defeated 40 of Saradomin's followers throughout the dungeon, or have an ecumenical key. You'll also need an agility level of 70, which cannot be boosted. On your first visit, you must bring 2 ropes in order to navigate obstacles in the encampment. And as a quick note, if this is your first time entering the God Wars dungeon, you'll need a total of 3 ropes. Now, regarding kill skill count to access Saradomin, it's usually pretty quick to get, but this is only true if you have 83 Slayer. Zelana attacks with both melee and magic, although her max hit is relatively low, with her melee attacks dealing up to 27 damage, and her magic dealing 10 to 20 damage. She makes up for this with an attack speed of 2. Combined with her tremendous accuracy, this makes fighting her in melee range extremely dangerous, as the precise attacks and rapid attack speed will likely cause a swift death for her target. Now, in order to avoid her damage, she can only attack you when you're in melee distance of her, but you still have to worry about Zelana's bodyguards, Bree, Growler, and Starlight, who use ranged, magic, and melee. Her bodyguards are significantly weaker compared to the other generals in God Wars, but they still should not be underestimated. The most commonly accepted method to battle Zelana is to bring a crossbow with diamond enchanted bolts, or a twisted bow, as she has an extremely high magic level compared to other generals. Her chamber is larger than the other generals, which allows for an effective use of kiting. In order to kite successfully, you'll need to bring stamina potions to counteract the weight of carried equipment. Attack as often as possible as Zelana chases after you, but ensure that you keep your distance from her. Protect for magic should be used by default, since your ranged defense will generally be higher than magic. This also will protect you against Zelana in case she gets in melee range. At the start of each fight, wear a serpentine helm and use a toxic blowpipe to quickly tag Bree, Growler, and Starlight one each to inflict venom on them. Switch to a different helmet once this is done, as a serpentine helmet has negative ranged bonuses. But overall, Zelana requires 70 agility and the completion of Troll Stronghold, but can make you a consistent 5 million GP an hour. Not bad at all. The Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is a solo minigame in Perfidious, in which you are given a limited amount of time to explore a randomly generated dungeon layout, gather various resources and supplies by skilling and defeating the crystalline monsters, all in preparation to defeat the crystalline Hunlif, which is based upon a deadly wolf-like predator. The Gauntlet was created as a training ground by the Amlad clan to ensure that warriors were capable of defending Perfidious during the God Wars. The Gauntlet can be found by entering the Gauntlet portal, found in the northwestern part of Perfidious. You cannot bring any items into the Gauntlet. When entering the minigame, all items currently on your player will be automatically stored for its duration, with any pre-applied skill boosts also being removed upon entry to the Gauntlet. This is a dangerous minigame, so hardcore Ironmen will lose their hardcore status if they get defeated in here, and Ultimate Ironmen will lose items in the instance banks should they die in the Gauntlet. The area contains resource nodes, herbs, and fish obtainable through mining, woodcutting, fishing, and other gathering methods, in order to make weapons, armors, potions, and food. These various resources do not require a specific skill level to gather. The dungeon will also contain various crystalline monsters, such as bats, unicorns, and dark beasts, which can be defeated for further supplies. Higher level monsters will offer better drops at the cost of taking more time to defeat. Completion of the Gauntlet will reward you with various loot, including crystal armor seeds for crystal armor, as well as enhanced crystal weapon seeds for the Blade of Salador or the Bow of Faradin, along with the crystal shards required to charge each of the items. Failing to finish, either by death or leaving early, will give a small token reward based upon how well you performed, but will not grant you any chance of unique items. Corrupted Gauntlet, on the other hand, the harder version of this, is 4.8 million GP an hour if you're able to do 7 kills an hour, and this requires the completion of Song of the Elves. Did you know that there's a few Discord servers that are dedicated on giving GP out? One way players make a lot of GP without necessarily playing in game is by entering giveaways that usually occur on YouTube videos, streams, social media posts, or Discord servers. Here's an example of a giveaway-based Discord server that gives hundreds of millions of GP, if not billions of GP away weekly. Everything they do is completely free to enter, and they also track any Twitch streamers that have giveaway in their title and have a notifier for anyone who's interested in that type of content. I'll leave a link in the description for those of you guys who want to join and have a passive way to make some GP. Phantom Musfa. Phantom Musfa is a solo boss that can be fought after completion of the quest Secrets of the North. It is the leftover energy of the strange creature that manifested after the events of the quest. The Phantom Musfa is stronger than its quest variant, but otherwise shares the same attacks and mechanics. All forms of the Phantom Musfa have a 33% freeze resistance, meaning it will only stay frozen for 66% of the base freeze duration of ice spells, so use Thralls. Throughout the fight, the Phantom Musfa will change forms after taking roughly 100 damage. During each transition, it will slam the ground, creating spikes around the arena, one on your position during the transition and a few elsewhere. Standing on a spike will knock your player back to clear a tile and heal the boss for 75% of the damage dealt. You should always mage the melee form and range the range form. The last phase, you have to focus on draining its prayer, so use Corruption from the Archaea spellbook, Sapphire Bolts, and use Smite on your attacks. If you're able to achieve 20 kills an hour, this boss grants you 4.7 million GP profit. Cerberus. Cerberus is a level 318 Hellhound boss boss, who resides in her lair, deep beneath the Taverley dungeon, in the cave entrance in the northeast part of the Hellhound area, which is found beyond the poisonous spiders. Defeating Cerberus requires a Slayer level of 91, along with a task of Hellhounds or Cerberus herself. Now, in the event of a Hellhound or Elite Clue Scroll task, Wild Pies may be used to boost your Slayer level in order to enter. As the guardian of the River of Souls, Cerberus protects the souls of the departed from whatever troubles they may face on their journey by the citizens of Arceus. But despite her important task, Cerberus longs to escape her post, and has successfully done so on multiple occasions, although with each attempt she was quickly captured and returned. Cerberus has killed many adventurers who have stumbled into her lair, with one of her more recent kills dropping a damaged soul bearer, which the Arceus elders inspected and eventually discarded when they could not repair it. Cerberus drops 3 different crystals: the Eternal, Pegasian, and Primordial crystals, which are used to upgrade the Infinity, Ranger, and Dragon boots to the Eternal, Pegasian, and Primordial boots respectively, which boast best in slot bonuses for the feat slot. She can also drop the Smoldering Stone at a much better rate compared to her lesser brethren, along with the Jar of Souls and the Hell Puppy Pet. After you get 91 Slayer and learn how to defeat Cerberus, you can gain an absolutely amazing 4.6 million GP an hour if you're able to achieve 52 kills an hour. General Gordor. General Gordor is the leader of Bandos forces within the God Wars dungeon. He is the only known living member of the Orc race in Old School RuneScape. He is found in the Bandos stronghold, which requires a strength level of 70 and a hammer to access. To enter his quarters, you must have an ecumenical key in your inventory or have killed 40 of the Bandos followers throughout the dungeon, with goblins being the easiest of the followers to kill. Like other God Wars dungeon bosses, Gordor roams around a rectangular room with his bodyguards until you enter. He attacks primarily with melee, and his bodyguards use a different combat style each. The Bandos boss may also use a ranged attack, where he slams the ground hitting all of the players in the room, which has an equal chance to hit between 15 to 35 damage upon successfully hitting your player. Now, despite it being a ranged attack, Gordor can only use it if he's within melee range of his current target. If there are no players in his chamber, his health and stats will be reset. If you're able to get 27 Bandos kills an hour, you can make a total of 4.5 million GP an hour profit. The Alchemical Hydra. The Alchemical Hydra is a boss version of Hydra, found in a lower level of the Calum Slayer dungeon, requiring level 95 Slayer to kill. The Alchemical Hydra was the creation of a dragonkin named Calum. While Calum saw promise in his creation, he nevertheless saw it as a failure because he could not replicate its traits, and abandoned it along with his other creations, the worms, drakes, and hydras. Unlike normal hydras, the Alchemical Hydra can only be defeated while on a Hydra Slayer task, which is only assigned by Konar. In addition, as it is only found within the volcano, those of you who have not completed the Elite Corinth and Kibo's Diary must wear boots of stone, boots of brimstone, or granite boots to protect you from the extreme heat of the dungeon floor. As a quick note, you should always be cautious about running back to collect your items after death here, and make sure to bring protection against the hot floor. The damage from the floor will interrupt attempts to reclaim your items, making it impossible to do so, and dying a second time will wipe the death storage. Along with all the unique drops obtainable from Hydras, it can also drop a Hydra Leather, which is used on the machinery southwest of the pool in the Lithcrin Vault to create ferocious gloves, as well as the Hydra Claw, which is combined with the Zamorakian Hasta to create the Dragon Hunter Lance. Consistently defeating the Alchemical Hydra can grant you 4.2 million GP in profit an hour. Kalisto. Kalisto is an enormous bear empowered by the corruption of the wilderness that resides in Kalisto's den, and is one of the 2 monsters to drop the Tyrannical Ring. Kalisto primarily attacks with melee, but he also uses ranged against players that he cannot reach. His melee attack deals massive damage, and shatters into other players near his current target. His melee attack has a minimum hit of 35, and at specific health intervals, he can deploy ghostly bear traps that bind players that step into one. When Kalisto does this, he will become unfrozen regardless of any remaining time on the freeze. Kalisto will occasionally send out a slow magic attack towards your player, and if you're not praying Protect from Magic when the attack reaches your player, this will result in you being knocked back and temporarily stunned, in addition to potentially taking a large amount of damage. Similar to Venatus and Vion, protection prayers will negate all damage of his attacks, with the exception of his melee attacks. There is absolutely no requirements needed to get to Kalisto's lair, but it is in the wilderness and will make you a whopping 3.7 million GP an hour if you can survive. Revenants. Revenants are ghostly versions of creatures slain during the God Wars found in the Revenant caves within the wilderness in levels 19 to 40. They are capable of hitting high and accurately for their combat levels, although most of the damage can be mitigated with a charged Bracelet of Ethereum. As the Revenant caves location is members only, all Revenants are members only creatures. Revenants have a fairly generous drop table, but as they are in the wilderness, you are always at risk of getting PK'd by other players. Due to the Revenants being incredibly lucrative, PKers are very common here. The caves they inhabit are singles plus combat, where PvP situations take priority over PVM. A player in combat with a Revenant can be attacked by another player, so you must always be aware. Unique drops from the Revenants include the wilderness weapons, a set of weapons that have increased effectiveness against monsters in the wilderness when charged with Revenant Ether. They also drop various ancient artifacts, which can be sold to the emblem trader wandering within the Revenant caves for a set amount of coins, as well as ancient crystals, 4 of which are used to construct an obelisk in the superior garden of a player-owned house. There are no requirements in order to enter the Revenant cave, and if you're able to defeat 150 orcs an hour while skulled, it'll make you a whopping 3.2 million GP of profit. Venatus. Venatus is a Zamorakian skeletal champion that resides in Venat's Rest. Like other bosses in the wilderness, he can also drop the dragon pickaxe. Venatus is highly resistant to any combat style other than the crush, and as he is undead, he is susceptible to the salve amulet in its enhanced version. Venatus primarily attacks with targeted magic, launching lightning in a 3x3 radius around each player upon attacking. While he appears to swing his sword during these animations, they do not deal any melee damage. Occasionally, he may prepare for a shield bash if players are near him, targeting an area in front of him. If you're caught in the targeted area, or if you're standing underneath him when he bashes his shield, you will take damage and be rendered unable to attack for a few seconds. Venatus is fought like the Calphite Queen, which we'll explain later in this video, in which he has 2 forms, a normal and an enraged form. When he reaches half health in his first form for the first time, he summons 2 level 194 skeleton hellhounds that attack with powerful melee, and must be defeated as they grant him complete damage immunity when alive. Upon being forced into his next stage though, Venatus will become enraged and unleash a blast of energy around him, working the same as the targeted magic attack. In this form, he will attack faster, his attacks will deal more damage, and any drained defense levels will be restored. In the second form, he summons 2 level 231 greater skeleton hellhounds that are even stronger, and must also be defeated. If players don't kill his second form within 5 minutes, he'll revert to his normal state. Reaching Venatus requires absolutely nothing, but you will need higher combat stats in order to defeat him, and if you can defeat him, you can make a whopping 3.4 million GP an hour. Arsho is a weaker variant of Kalisto who is fought at the Hunter's End, a singles plus combat area in level 21 Wilderness. To access, you must have completed the medium Wilderness Diary. Now, compared to Kalisto, the fight is safer and easier in return for lower drop quantities and rates. Arsho's melee attack has a minimum hit of 15, which can only be partially blocked with Protect from melee. If you manage to get 52 kills an hour though, you'll be walking away with 3.6 million GP in profit. Pretty good. Vorath. Vorath is a draconic boss monster first encountered during the Dragon Slayer 2 quest. Created by Zorgoth during the 4th Aegis Dragonkin conflicts. The Blue Dragon is one of his subjects that has survived his experiments in a laboratory beneath Dragonkin Fortress on Ungel. Despite his phenomenal strength, Zorgoth abandoned this Vorath due to its lack of aggression, leaving it as a distraction for any humans that would stumble onto the island. Vorath uses a variety of attacks, primarily ranged and magical attacks, as well as melee if you're standing next to him. Similar to the King Black Dragon, he can also use 3 types of Dragonfire: regular, venomous, and prayer disabling. His Dragonfire is stronger than other dragons and requires more tiers of protection to block. The final common attack is a fireball he launches high in the air that must be dodged. It will instantly kill your character regardless of your Dragonfire protection if directly struck, or deal an immense amount of damage if you're next to it, which is also unaffected by Dragonfire protection. After 6 normal / Dragonfire attacks, he will use 1 of 2 special attacks and alternate between them. As an example, he will use 1 special attack after 6 regular attacks, and then another after 6 more, and so on, freezing your player in place and summoning a zombified spawn that will approach your player and explode violently if not killed, resulting in up to 61 damage, launching acid pools around the area and rapidly spinning fireballs at you that must be dodged or they will deal a high amount of damage very quickly. Once Vorath is defeated, he will return to his original unaggressive stance. He can immediately be reawoken for another battle. This boss requires Dragon Slayer 2 and will make you 3 million GP an hour if you're able to achieve 30 kills an hour with a melee setup such as the Lance. Calvarion. Calvarion is a weaker variant of Venatus who is fought at the Skeletal Tomb in a singles plus combat area in level 21 Wilderness. To access Calvarion, you must have completed the medium Wilderness Diary. Compared to Venatus, the fight is quicker and safer at the cost of an overall lower loot value. This boss will grant you 2.7 million GP an hour. Lizardman Shamans. Lizardman Shamans are giant reptilian humanoids that are stronger than their normal Lizardman and Lizardman Brute counterparts. They are often sought after for their Dragon Warhammer drops. Lizardman Shamans have standard ranged and melee attacks attacks, so one should use Protect from missiles and stand at a distance. The Lizardman Shamans have several special attacks that they can utilize during the fight. Excluding the spawns, these attacks do not have a cooldown, so it is possible for a Lizardman Shaman to repeatedly use the same ability over and over again. A green acidic attack will deal 25 to 30 damage. If you're wearing tiers 1 to 4 of Shazian armor, this will reduce the damage of this attack greatly. Wearing a full set of tier 5 Shazian armor will reduce the damage to 0. This attack can also cause poison starting at 10 damage. Those of you who have completed the hard Corinne in Kebo's diary can talk to Captain Cleave to be able to wear your Slayer helmet or Slayer helmet imbued as a Shazian helmet 5 slot. There's also a jump attack that targets a small area where your player was previously standing on. If you are in the landing area where the Shaman crashes down, you will be dealt 20 to 25 typeless damage. This jump has a 3x3 AoE damage and is not used if the jump location is obstructed. Lizardman Shamans may also summon several purple spawns that appear next to your player, which is indicated by the ground shaking. After a few seconds, the spawns will explode. The damage dealt is anywhere from 5 to 10 depending on your proximity next to them. Their explosion covers a 5x5 area, or 3x3 if you're defeating them in the Lizardman Temple. Defeating Lizardman Shamans can grant you a 1.7 million GP profit per hour. Rune Dragons. Rune Dragons are metal dragons first encountered during the Dragon Slayer 2 quest, in which you had to fight one during Zorgoth's assault. After completion of the quest, they can be found in the eastern chamber of Lithcrin Vault. Rune Dragons have multiple attacks similar to Mithril and Adamant Dragons. Along with the standard Dragonfire attacks, they have standard melee, ranged, and magic attacks, which resembles a water wave, as well as 2 special attacks. The first attack is 2 small electric bolts, which are launched around your player's position and hones in on you. This deals 4 to 7 damage per tick for a few seconds. If you're wearing insulated boots though, this damage is reduced to 1 to 2 per tick. You can also avoid the attack entirely by running 4 to 5 squares away from your original position when the attack was launched. The second attack is a ranged attack that hits through Protect from missiles, and uses the life leech effect from the enchanted Onyx bolts, where the dragon will heal itself for 100% of the damage dealt to your player. Rune Dragons will make you 1.4 million GP an hour. The Thermonuclear Smoke Devil. Thermonuclear Smoke Devil is often referred to as Thermi, is the boss version of the Smoke Devil found in the Smoke Devil dungeon. It requires a minimum of 93 Slayer to damage. The Thermonuclear Smoke Devil can only be attacked on a Smoke Devil task. The Smoke Devil boss can make you 1.4 million GP an hour profit. Hydras. Hydras are draconic creatures found in the lower level of the Urum Slayer dungeon, requiring level 95 Slayer to defeat. Hydras are only assigned as a Slayer task by Konar. There are 2 areas within the dungeon that contain Hydras, one being exclusive to the players on a Hydra Slayer assignment. As both of these are located within the Karlum Slayer dungeon, those of you who have not completed the elite Corinne and Kebo's diary must wear boots of stone, boots of brimstone, or granite boots to protect themselves from the extreme heat of the dungeon floor, or else you'll take rapid damage. Slaying these normal Hydras can make you 1.1 million GP an hour. Brutal Black Dragons. Brutal Black Dragons are Slayer monsters found in the catacombs of Corinne, requiring level 77 Slayer in order to be damaged. They are the tougher version of Black Dragons and as such can be killed as an alternative for a Black Dragon Slayer task. You can access these dragons by heading towards the Dragon's Den and running past the Brutal Blue and Red Dragons, or alternatively use the hole found in Lova King to take you there immediately. Like all Brutal Dragons, they use melee, magic, and long-range dragon fire. Using Protect from magic and an anti-fire potion will completely protect you from damage if you don't stand in the melee range. Brutal Black Dragons will make you 1.1 million GP an hour, and they're pretty easy to farm. The Abyssal Sire. The Abyssal Sire is an Abyssal Demon Slayer boss that requires level 85 Slayer to defeat. To access the boss, you must have visited the Abyss at least once, either through the Mage of Zamrock or the Fairy Ring network. The Sire can only be fought when assigned Abyssal Demons or itself as a Slayer task. Although it resides in a multi-combat area, it is a solo-only boss. Sire is known for dropping the Unsired, which can be placed in the font of consumption behind the Overseer for a chance at obtaining an Abyssal Whip, Dagger, Abyssal Head, Jar of Miasma, a part of the Abyssal Bludgeon, the Axe and Claw or Spine, or rarely an Abyssal Orphan. In the first phase, you must kill the Sire's 4 respiratory systems in the corners of the room. The Sire can be disorientated by using shadow spells on the ancient spellbook, or by dealing 75 damage to it with ranged or magic, temporarily disabling the tentacles protecting the respiratory systems. At the start of the second phase, the Sire gets off its throne to attack you with melee. It may also summon spawns and create highly poisonous miasma pools under your character. The spawns are quite harmless at first, but after 10 seconds, they will mature into scions that have more health and deal more damage. The Sire will approach your character if you're at least 3 tiles tiles away, but will teleport your character to him if attacked from at least 2 tiles away. When the Sire reaches less than 200 health, it will walk to the middle of the room to initiate the 3rd phase. Instead of attacking, it will begin creating many spawns and rapidly summons miasma pools, which you must avoid. When the Sire reaches less than 140 health, it will teleport you next to itself and trigger a highly damaging area of effect attack. The damage can be avoided by stepping away from the Sire as soon as you are teleported. The Sire boss requires 85 Slayer and makes 1.1 million GP an hour if you're able to achieve 18 kills an hour. Demonic Gorillas. Demonic Gorillas are powerful creatures found in the Crash Site Cavern. 2 of them are fought during Monkey Madness 2 in the penultimate stage of the fight. After the quest is completed, more Demonic Gorillas can be found in the caverns alongside their tortured brethren. They are primarily farmed for their Zenyte Shard and Ballista component drops. Demonic Gorillas use all 3 combat styles to attack. They will change combat styles after missing 3 hits in that attack style. They're also capable of using protection prayers and will switch to your last used combat style against them when they have taken 50 or more damage. Therefore, you must bring at least 2 different combat styles in order to defeat them. As they have very high magical defense, they're most often fought with melee and ranged. The Gorillas also have a special attack where they send a rock crashing down at your position, which can be easily avoided by moving 1 tile away from the current spot when the attack was initiated. If struck by this rock, you will take 33% of your current health as damage. This rock cannot kill you by itself as a result though. I do want to mention that the Gorillas' prayers cannot be bypassed through the use of a Verax set or special attacks. However, the healing effects of equipment like the Guthans set or Ceridom and Godsword will still take place even through prayer. Demonic Gorillas require Monkey Madness 2 to defeat and makes you 2.6 million GP an hour profit. The Dagannoth Kings. Dagannoth Kings, commonly abbreviated as DKs, are a group of 3 Dagannoths that live deep in the cave on Waterbirth Island, which is a multi-way combat area. They are each level 303 and also represent the combat triangle. Each king possesses his own unique ring drop, except for Rex, who has 2. The rings give the second best bonuses for their respective styles in the ring slot. All 3 kings have the ability to drop the Dragon Axe, and they'll all drop Dagannoth Bones. Dagannoth Rex attacks with melee and is weak to magic. His unique loots include the Berserker Ring and Warrior Ring. Dagannoth Prime attacks with magic and is weak to range, with unique loots including the Seer's Ring and Mud Battle Staff. Dagannoth Supreme attacks with range and is weak to melee, with their unique drops including Archer's Ring and Circle. When farming these bosses, you're able to make 2.6 million GP an hour. Mythal Dragons can be found and fought in the Ancient Cavern. To access the Ancient Cavern, you need to start the Prior Ship section of the Barbarian Training mini quest. Be wary, as these monsters are extremely powerful. Their release broke the King Black Dragon's long-standing record as being the strongest dragon in RuneScape. It is highly recommended to use anti-fire potions in conjunction with an anti-dragon shield or a dragon fire shield when fighting these, along with the appropriate protection prayer. Alternatively, a super anti-fire potion can be used in conjunction with the defender for higher damage per second. Mythal Dragons can make you 725,000 GP an hour if you can defeat 45 of them. Zulrah. Zulrah is a level 725 solo-only snake boss, which can only be harmed with ranged or magic attacks. Though Zulrah can be reached with a Halberd, it is immune to melee attacks. In order to access Zulrah, you must have completed Regicide to the point of reaching Port Tyrus. The shrine is a small U-shaped island with 2 pillars in the middle corners, and Zulrah rotates in the swampy water around the island throughout the fight. Damage at Zulrah is capped at 50. Furthermore, it periodically switches forms that have varying resistance to ranged and magic, so using both is recommended. In turn, Zulrah attacks with ranged and magic as well as an avoidable melee attack, depending on its form. It can also summon snakelings, smaller versions of itself, on the platform to attack your character, along with toxic clouds that deal rapid damage if you stand in one. Zulrah and its snakelings inflict venom with their attacks, an enhanced version of poison that increases its damage the longer it has affected your character, starting at 6 damage per hit and increasing up to 20. Standard poison protection will only reduce it to a regular poison and will not grant any immunity. Anti-Venom or Anti-Venom Plus or wearing a Serpentine Helm are much more effective for eliminating and preventing venom. Farming Zulrah can make you 2.5 million GP an hour and is one of the most farmed bosses in old school RuneScape. Corporal Beast. The Corporal Beast, often referred to simply as Corp, is a large monster residing in its lair, accessible via a games necklace or through an entrance in level 21 Wilderness east of the Graveyard of Shadows. Corp has a very large health pool of 2,000 hit points, coupled with high defense and 50% damage reduction against most weapons. Only spears, halberds, fangs, all unstab attack style, and magic deal full damage. Additionally, the special effect of Ruby Bolts Enchanted will deal the full 100 damage on its spec. Keep in mind, if all players leave the room, Corporal Beast's hit points will regenerate at a rapid rate. This boss has no requirements to enter, but it is heavily recommended to have a Shadow of the Storm for Darklight, a Dragon Warhammer, and House Tablets to regain your special attack and hit points at a pool. You can make 2.3 million GP an hour defeating Corporal Beast. The Moons of Perill. The Moons of Perill are aimed at mid-level players of at least 75 combat. This boss is heavily inspired by Barrows. Your trip into Deep Hotsley begins in the Antechamber, expanding outwards along 3 accessible entrances. The Streambound Cavern, Earthbound Cavern, and the Ancient Prison have different resources where you can create food and potions that are more powerful than even the best found outside of the lair. As such, it is highly recommended to gather supplies from within these caverns, rather than bringing in supplies from the outside. Campsites around the 3 areas will also have supply crates that store the required tools to gather resources, and cooking stoves to cook food and fully restore run energy. Once you're ready, you can proceed to face the Moons of Perill. The 3 bosses share a unique mechanic, where their basic attack will hit 3 times, each dealing more damage than the last. However, if one hit misses, the remainder will as well. This means having good defense bonuses will result in less damage taken overall. Protection prayers will not do anything against any of their attacks, so be aware of that. While this boss can be fought by multiple players simultaneously, the boss's health is tied to individual players, meaning each player will effectively have to deal all the damage on their own. Additionally, each Moon of Perill has a lower defense bonus against a specific melee style, with the Eclipse Moon being vulnerable to stab, with the Blue Moon being vulnerable to crush, and the Blood Moon being vulnerable to slash. This boss requires the Perilous Moons quest and is 2.1 million GP an hour if you're able to achieve 14 KC an hour. The Nightmare of Ashihama. The Nightmare of Ashihama, often referred to as the Nightmare, is a boss monster located in Mortania. The Nightmare can be found in the Sisterhood Sanctuary under the town of Slepe. Access to Mortania is the only requirement for fighting the Nightmare. To begin the fight, approach the Nightmare's unconscious body and select the Disturb option. Keep in mind that players may join in the following 30 seconds before the fight begins. Afterwards, players must wait until the fight is over before they may join. Unlike other boss fights, the Nightmare's health and combat stats scale to the number of players in the fight, ranging from 5 to 80 players, though you can fight her with fewer than 5. If the Nightmare is floating in the center rather than lying on the ground, it is an indication that she is fighting a group of players. The symbols on the ground also indicate the phase she is in. The Nightmare's melee attack ignores accuracy and always hits. In addition, you'll take 20% of her base damage if using Protect for melee, and 120% of her base damage if using the incorrect protection prayer. If the Nightmare has very low combat stats, her max hit will be at least a random number between 1 and 6, subject to the effects of prayer. So that's something you should always keep in mind when you're farming the Nightmare for 2 million GP an hour. Kirill Sitsuroth. Kirill is the boss of the Zamorak Fortress in the God Wars dungeon. To gain access to his chamber, you must have slain 40 Zamorakians throughout the dungeon. He uses melee and magic attacks, and his special attack can occasionally hit through the Protect from melee prayer should you attempt to use it. He is typically defeated on a Slayer task, and thus killing him counts towards any greater Demon Slayer task and allows a player to take advantage of the damage boosting effects of a Black Mask or a Slayer helmet. He is also susceptible to Demon Bane weapons and spells. Like other God Wars dungeon bosses, Kirill roams around a rectangular room with his bodyguards until a player enters, attacking them on sight. With him only attacking with melee and magic, if his target is praying Protect for melee, he can use a devastating melee special attack that hits through prayer. The melee attack has a maximum hit of 46, the magic attack hits from 10 to 30, and the special attack hits from 35 to 49 max damage, as well as draining half of your current prayer points. The relative occurrences of the attacks are 2 to 3 for melee and 1 to 3 for magic. Barring a complex mechanic, Kirill will use his special on 1 in every 9 hits instead of a melee attack. You will need to complete Troll Stronghold and have 70 hit points to access Zamorak, but you can make a nice crisp 1.9 million GP an hour here. Fear Shades. Fear Shades are undead creatures whom lurk behind the silver door in the Morton Shade catacombs. They initially appear as very dark moving shadows on the ground and then rise from the depths to attack or retaliate. On occasion, they have also been known to leave their catacombs to attack trekkers and ramblers in the town above their dark burial place. Their remains can be cremated with magic pyre logs or redwood pyre logs as part of the Shades of Morton minigame, requiring a fire making level of 80 and 95 respectively. Fear Shades can be found at the end of the shaded catacombs underneath Morton. Access to them requires a silver shade key, which is most easily obtained by burning fear remains on the pyres of the southern part of Morton, or burning acid remains, requiring 80 fire making and magic pyre logs, or burning acid remains requiring 65 fire making and at least U pyre logs. Use that key to enter the catacombs going through the bronze, steel, and silver doors. Overall, you will need 65 fire making, Shades of Morton completed, and in aid of Myriki in order to make the whopping 1.1 million GP an hour profit here. Grotesque Guardians. The Grotesque Guardians are a pair of gargoyles, Dusk and Dawn, found on the Slayer Tower's rooftop, which is located on the 3rd floor. But in order to access the roof for the first time, you must obtain a brittle key from gargoyles while having them assigned as a Slayer task, requiring 75 Slayer. Similar to other Slayer bosses such as Cerberus and the Abyssal Sire, the Grotesque Guardians can only be killed while you're assigned gargoyles or the Guardians themselves as a Slayer task. In the beginning of the fight, you must attack Dawn with ranged attacks, as she cannot be harmed with melee and is resistant to magic. Dusk cannot be harmed during this phase of the fight as well. Once her health has reached half, she She will fly away and then you must attack Dusk. During this phase of the fight, Dusk's wings may glow and will perform an explosive attack. If you do not run away from him when he does so, you'll be dealt up to 33 damage and be knocked back. In addition, debris may fall around the roof, which can deal up to 22 damage and stun you for a brief period of time. Once his health has reached half, Dawn will return and perform a lightning special attack with Dusk that has an AoE of 3x3, rapidly dealing up to 5 to 10 damage per tick. After the lightning attacks, Dawn will send out 3 energy spheres that will grow larger over time. If you do not absorb these spheres in time, each will heal Dawn for 90 hit points. After defeating Dawn, Dusk will absorb her essence and initiate the final phase of the fight. Here he is stronger, can use melee and ranged attacks, and may drag you to a prison of purple flames. You must escape the prison by clicking anywhere outside it, or you will be dealt up to 65 damage, which heals Dusk as well. Overall, this requires 75 Slayer, a Gargoyle's Task. It makes you just over 1 million GP profit an hour. Lava Dragons. Lava Dragons are former red dragons that have been transformed after being surrounded by lava for too long. They reside in a lava dragon isle in the wilderness between level 36 and 42 wilderness, and attack with melee as well as with dragon fire. Due to their low magic level, they are particularly weak to magic, thus making Firebolt a slow but profitable method of killing them. Lava Dragons can be safe spotted both inside and outside their isle. The many piles of skeletons and edges at the isle allow you to be able to safe spot them inside safely. Alternatively, you can camp some of the southern spawns outside of the isle as well. Having 74 agility and the hard wilderness diary completed is recommended when killing them to use the stepping stones to escape the isle, as the area is frequented by PKers. Bringing a pestle and mortar is optional to grind the scales into shards, in addition to high level alchemy runes to alch their common adamant and rune equipment drops. If you've opted into killing them from outside the isle, telekinetic grab will be needed to grab their drops. Although it is possible to stay at the isle indefinitely using the telekinetic grab method, it is advisable to bank every 10 to 20 minutes to make sure you don't get PK'd for all your loot. Lava Dragons are the only monsters to drop the Lava Dragon Bones, which give 85 prayer experience when buried. However, burying them on the Lava Dragon Island grants you 340 prayer experience instead. There's absolutely no requirements to attack them, with the bright side being these dragons can make you 1 million GP an hour profit. The Kraken. The Kraken is a stronger and larger version of the Cave Kraken. It requires level 87 Slayer to kill and cannot be boosted. Located at the Kraken Cove, it can only be attacked if you have Cave Krakens as a Slayer task. Alongside its non-boss variants, it is the only monster that drops the Trident of the Seas and Kraken Tentacle. Like its smaller brethren, the Kraken is submerged underwater. Magic is the only reliable way of dealing damage to it, as range deals 1/7 of its normal damage, and it cannot be reached with melee weapons. To start the fight, you can use a fishing explosive on the large whirlpool. Otherwise, the 4 whirlpools around must be first disturbed. When all 4 whirlpools are disturbed, the larger one can be disturbed next, which will result in the Kraken waking up. Both methods will release level 112 enormous tentacles, which attack with magic. The Kraken also will attack you with magic. The Kraken can hit very hard, but has very poor accuracy, while the tentacles are much more accurate but deal less damage. The Kraken and its tentacles use typeless magic, and as such, Protect from Magic does not provide any degree of damage reduction. With the overall requirement being 87 Slayer, the Kraken will make you 940,000 GP per hour profit. Last Man Standing. Last Man Standing, commonly referred to as LMS, is a player versus player battle royale style minigame in which you, along with 3 to 23 others, are transported onto an island where you must fight for your survival, killing each other and upgrading your items throughout the battle. You can begin the minigame by speaking to Lisa, located at the Ferox Enclave. Items cannot be brought into this minigame, and any items in your possession are temporarily taken away for the duration of the game, which are promptly returned to you upon leaving the game. Alternatively, a bank deposit box near Lisa can be used to deposit all of your items. Upon arrival to the island, an account build is randomly chosen for all players, with a higher chance given to builds preferred by more players in the waiting area. All prayers excluding Redemption, Smite, Preserve, and Retribution can be used, and your spellbook is switched to the Ancient Magics even if Desert Treasure 1 is not completed. In addition, you are given infinite run energy as well as infinite prayer. Once you arrive on the island, the game will begin in 12 seconds, and upon defeating an opponent, your stats, run energy, special attack, and supplies are all replenished. You will also receive a bloody key or a bloodier key if there are fewer than 6 players in the game, which you can use on a chest to receive more powerful equipment. During this time, you are also unattackable for 20 seconds, giving you time to find a chest to loot as well as preparing for the next fight against another player. Doing the Last Man Standing minigame can make you 816,000 GP an hour and make you even more if you're one of the top PKers in the game. With this being a very profitable minigame, I feel like it earned a spot in this list. Urum Shades. Urum Shades are undead creatures whom lurk behind the gold door in the Morton Shade Catacombs. They initially appear as moving shadows on the ground and then rise from the depths to attack or retaliate. Their Their remains can be cremated with redwood prior logs as part of the Shades of Morton minigame, requiring a fire making level of 95. Urum Shades can be found at the end of the Shade Catacombs underneath Morton. Accessing them requires a gold shade key, which is most easily obtained by burying Urum remains on the priors to the southern part of Morton, or burning fear remains requiring 80 fire making and at least magic prior logs. Use that key to enter the catacombs going through the bronze, steel, and gold doors, and enjoy your 800,000 GP an hour profit. Skeletal Wyverns. Skeletal Wyverns are Slayer monsters that require a Slayer level of 72 in order to be harmed. They are found at the end of the Asgardian Ice Dungeon. Like other Wyverns, they require an Elemental Shield, Mind Shield, Dragonfire Shield, Dragonfire Ward, or Ancient Wyvern Shield to reduce the damage from their icy breath. However, it is not required to be slain. They are also the only monster that drops granite legs. Although it is insinuated in Tarn's diary that skeletal wyverns are undead, they are in fact reanimated remains, whereas actual undead creatures have to come back to life. This means that the Salve Amulet and its enchanted versions do not work against them. Skeletal wyverns have high defense, attack, and hit points, thus making them very challenging opponents. They attack with melee, ranged, or their unique ice breath attack. This attack can freeze you similar to ancient magic ice spells. However, you may still eat food or drink potions while frozen. Protect from missiles is the suggested prayer to use against them due to the amount of range damage skeletal wyverns do, although it is not needed if you can safe spot them, as the wyverns are draconic creatures. Dragonbane weapons such as the Dragon Hunter Lance and the Dragon Hunter Crossbow are the best choices to kill them swiftly. They are one of the only monsters in the game vulnerable to both Dragonbane weapons and Dragonfire effects. A Dragon Hunter Crossbow with enchanted Dragonstone bolts can be extremely effective against them. Due to their moderate melee defense, melee is recommended to kill wyverns unless your defense level is low. If killing wyverns with melee, an Abyssal Whip or another high accuracy slash weapon is recommended. And as a brief mention, wyverns are slightly weak to magic, so you could mage them if you so choose. Overall, wyverns require 72 Slayer and make you 736,000 GP an hour. Pretty solid. Barrows. The Barrows is a series of 6 burial mounds east of Morton in which the Barrows brothers were entombed after their deaths during the Third Age. Barrows also commonly refers to the minigame-like dungeon delving experience of looting the chest at the center of the tunnels beneath the crypts. Released on May 9, 2005. Searching the sarcophagi within the crypts will spawn one of the Barrows brothers or will lead to a passage beneath the crypts. If you kill these NPCs, you will become eligible of finding Barrows equipment in the rewards chest. Use the staircases to exit the crypts and continue by digging somewhere else afterwards. While underground anywhere in the Barrows area, the brothers' faces will occasionally appear on screen, draining a considerable amount of prayer points every 18 seconds. The amount of prayer drain begins at 8 prayer points and increases by 1 for each brother killed, for a maximum of 14 once all 6 brothers are killed. Barrows requires Priest in Peril for access to Mortania and will make you 735,000 GP an hour. Black Dragons. Killing Black Dragons gives decent combat experience as well as steady money from the form of their guaranteed drops, Dragon Bones, and Black Dragon Hide. It is recommended to use a high-level ranged weapon to kill these creatures as they are weak to ranged. One place to farm Black Dragons is in the Evil Chicken's lair, accessed from Xanaris. This spot is rarely crowded. You will need to use a raw chicken on the shrine in front of it to enter. In this location, it is very easy to bank from, by just walking to Xanaris Bank. It also has a safe spot in the entrance to the tunnel that takes you to the mining area. Those of you who have completed Dragon Slayer 2 may prefer killing Black Dragons in the Myth's Guild basement, as they are much closer to a bank alongside ease of access to the mythical Cape Teleport. On the other hand, those of you who are low level can feel free to kill them in Taverley Dungeon, but this is a very popular spot. In that case, bring in anti-poison, some food, and Falador teleports. Because they are deep in the Taverley Dungeon, a Dusty Key is needed or level 70 agility to use the pipe shortcut. Defeating Black Dragons can make you 222,000 GP an hour and be a very AFK method to train up your stats. Red Dragons. Red Dragons found in Brimhaven Dungeon always drop Dragon Bones and Red Dragon Hide, along with many other chance drops, which sell for 3.5k and 2k respectively. This makes each kill worth 5.5 thousand GP. An axe is needed to pass through the dungeon. The entry fee to the dungeon is 875 GP, unless you have paid 1 million GP for the permanent access. Fire and nature runes can be brought for high alch if needed. Each trip will last about 20 minutes, including banking hides and bones and returning to the dungeon. The best method of banking is to teleport to Edgeville using an Amulet of Glory and return to the dungeon via teleporting to your player-owned house in Brimhaven, which requires 40 construction to do, via a house tab. Another method is by using Karamja Gloves 3 to teleport to Shiloh Village, banking and returning via the cart to Brimhaven. Those of you who have done the Elite Diary, though, can have access to a shortcut to the Red Dragons as well as noted Red Dragon Hide. 90 to 100 kills per hour should be expected with a Dragon Hunter Lance due to less banking time, with more kills being possible with max stats and gear. Around 55,000 combat experience per hour and 400 to 600,000 GP an hour can be expected here if paying moderate attention. If you're not using a Dragon Hunter Lance, you can expect around 217,000 GP an hour, so it's highly recommended to wait until you have higher stats to start farming these. Aviancies. Aviancies drop 4 noted adamant bars fairly commonly, with about a 1 in 4 kills drop rate, but you must have completed the hard Fremennik diary in order to get the bar drops noted. This makes killing them fairly profitable, as each kill will on average give 1 adamant bar. They also drop rune daggers and runite limbs, which can be alked, but the bulk of their profit comes from the adamant bars. Because they are noted, it means you can stay indefinitely if you aren't in need of food. Aviancy are found inside Armadel's Eyrie, in the God Wars dungeon, or in the wilderness version of God Wars. Armadel's Eyrie is in the southwest part of the dungeon and requires 70 range to enter. Having a piece of Armadil affiliated clothing as well as a Zamrock related item is strongly recommended, or else everything in that facility will be aggressive towards you. Depending on whether you have bones to peaches or not, once you have run out of food or you're finished, teleport out, sell your adamant bars and other items on the Grand Exchange. This monster has no requirements in the wilderness and requires 70 range defusing the God Wars dungeon, and can make you 211,000 DP an hour profit. Green Dragons. Green Dragons are the weakest of the adult chromatic dragons in RuneScape. They are found in various locations within the wilderness, as well as in the Corsair Cove dungeon. Green Dragons are capable of breathing dragon fire, which can hit up to 50 damage on you if you're not wearing an anti-dragon shield or a dragon fire shield. Using one of these shields will partially block the dragon fire, and using one of these shields with an anti-fire potion will block the dragon fire completely. Green Dragons are assignable as a Slayer task by Vanica and Cristelia. If you wish to avoid the risks of the wilderness when assigned Green Dragons as a Slayer task, you can kill baby Green Dragons within the Brimhaven dungeon or Green Dragons in the Myths Guild's basement. If you want to challenge yourself, brutal Green Dragons in the Ancient Cavern can be killed as an alternative. Green Dragons make you 893,000 GP an hour if you can defeat 170 of them an hour, and requires Dragon Slayer 2 to kill the normal Green Dragons outside of the wilderness. Cave Horrors. Cave Horrors require 58 Slayer to kill. They drop the Black Mask, which is worth 688,000 GP at a 1 out of 512 rate. They are located in the mostly harmless cave, which requires Cabin Fever to be completed. Also, you'll need a light source and a Witchwood icon to avoid taking a great deal of damage. The easiest way to get to the caves would be teleporting to Port Phasmatis via the Ectophile and taking Bill Teach's boat to Mostly Harmless and traveling east from the town. Afterwards, be sure to unlock the Trouble Brewing minigame teleport once you arrive so that you may return with ease. The Cave Horrors are a bit spread out, but they possess low defense and have only 55 hit points, so it's easy to take them down with any combat class. Ranged or melee is preferred. However, there is a safe spot near the entrance for rangers to use. With a good weapon and decent armor, they don't do enough damage to be very troublesome. Also, with mid to high level equipment, it is possible to kill upwards to 360 Cave Horrors per hour, thus increasing the profit margin to 483,000 GP an hour. They have very few drops besides the Black Mask worth picking up, although nature runes and various alchemies and herb seeds may be worth picking up if you're trying to maximize your profits. At this rate, you should average about 1 Black Mask every hour and a half, although this is not at all guaranteed. Overall, this requires Cabin Fever and 58 Slayer to do, and will make you 207,000 GP an hour if you're a lower level. Brutal Green Dragons. Brutal Green Dragons may be found in the Ancient Cavern, accessible after you have started Barbarian Fire Making training. They have 100% drops of Dragon Bones and 2 Green Dragon Hides, thus making them worth over 5.9 thousand GP per kill. It is recommended to bring 4 to 6 pieces of food, 1 to 4 prayer potions, a games necklace, and an extended anti-fire. Protect from magic should be activated or you will need a lot more food. Depending on setup, skills, and inventory space, you can expect around 6 dragons worth of loot a trip before using a Ring of Dueling to teleport to Ferox Enclave for banking and the Pool of Refreshment to restore your prayer points. Then return to the Ancient Cavern via the Games Necklace. Overall, this requires you to start Barbarian Fire Making, and it makes you 180,000 GP an hour. Spiritual Mages. Spiritual Mages commonly drop nature runes, worth 103 coins each. They also commonly drop low-end runes, but their most valuable drop is Dragon Boots at a 1 out of 128 drop rate. The best location to fight Spiritual Mages is the first room of Saradomin's encampment. The mages in this area are quite often distracted attacking the werewolf, saving you the need for Protect from Magic. This requires 70 agility and a rope for first-time visitors, and will make you a nice 180,000 GP an hour while allowing you to train up your combat stats. Brine Rats. Brine Rats, which can drop the Brine Saber, were 366,000 GP at a rate of 1 out of 512, are found inside their cavern and require 47 Slayer and completion of Olaf's quest. Using Fairy Ring code DKS is strongly recommended, as it takes you southwest of the access point on top of the Icy Mountain, where a spade is used to dig next to the windswept tree be on the hill. Once inside, head east, then north and west in the cave. Collect the death runes, noted sharks, and lobsters they drop. Also at 45 cooking, you can camp here by cooking raw swordfish using Olaf's fire outside. Overall, you can make 177,000 gold an hour camping brine rats. The Deranged Archaeologist. The Deranged Archaeologist is a demi-boss located on Fossil Island. A simple mistake during the fight can cause instant death due to his special attack, so be wary. He's nearly identical to the Crazy Archaeologist in terms of combat. He throws books as a ranged attack and punches and kicks you if you stand in melee range. His special attack is similar, but it hits much harder, and a whopping 56 damage per direct hit. And he shouts "learn to read" when he uses it. Notably, however, the Deranged Archaeologist drops none of the same unique items as the Crazy Archaeologist. In fact, the Deranged Archaeologist is the only non-quest boss in Old School RuneScape to have no unique drops. This boss requires Bon Voyage and makes 480,000 GP an hour profit. Chaos Druids. Killing Chaos Druids can be very profitable, since they drop expensive herbs, such as Lantadime, Avanto, Dwarfweed, and Renarweed. They are also only 13 combat. Depending on your combat level, a full inventory of herbs and some law runes and mithril bullets can take you from 10 to 20 minutes. Chaos Druids are found in the Edgeville Dungeon, Taverley Dungeon, and Ynail Agility Dungeon. Some of these Chaos Druids reside in the wilderness part of Edgeville Dungeon. A looting bag can be utilized to reduce the amount of bank trips needed. While these Chaos Druids are relatively safe, in around level 1 to 4 wilderness, be aware that some players disguise themselves as Chaos Druids and will kill you when you attack them. With the new mouse options, you can set player attack options to be always right click, avoiding the need to right click the Chaos Druids. Taverley Dungeon's Chaos Druids have no requirement like the wilderness ones and are relatively clumped. But if you need a less crowded place, you could try the Ynail Agility Dungeon, which requires 57 agility or 82 thieving. They attack using their fists and they use the Confuse spell. The Chaos Druid's weakness is ranged and throwable knives work well against them to help you make your 169,000 GP an hour profit here. Ogre Shamans. Ogre Shamans are found in the Corsair Cove dungeon. They drop high-value rune equipment, runes, and uncut gems. They're also accessible to players in free-to-play. You're able to gain access to the dungeon by starting the Corsair Curse quest, but it must be completed to access the nearby bank east of the dungeon entrance. When you're using melee here, if you go through the main entrance, head southeast to the room with the 2 shamans, a fire, and a raw tuna spawn. Once the shamans have stopped being aggressive, you can cook the tuna on the fire to sustain yourself indefinitely with high enough magic and defense levels. Full green dragonhide armor and an amulet of power is recommended for maximum free-to-play magic defense bonus. Eating the bread that spawns here might also be necessary to sustain yourself. Casting bones to bananas can also help. The Corsair's Cove Bank can be used to store loot. Otherwise, high-level alchemy can allow you to stay in the dungeon for a longer time. This has no requirements, and if you can defeat 80 an hour, you'll make 139,000 GP an hour, being a very good free-to-play moneymaker that allows you to train your combat at the same time. The Crazy Archaeologist. The Crazy Archaeologist is located in the wilderness with a strong possibility of player killers appearing. Only take a few expensive items if you come here. If you have the Desert Treasure 1 quest completed, the fastest way to reach him is via the Dariak teleport spell, or its corresponding tablet to the teleport directly to the ruins. Alternatively, using a burning amulet to teleport to the bandit camp and running northwest to the ruins is a viable option for those of you without Desert Treasure 1 completion. If you wish to take a detour as to avoid player killers, you can teleport to the Corporal Beast lair via a games necklace, exit, and then run a bit southeast to the Wilderness Obelisk. Keep using the obelisk until you finally reach level 27 Wilderness. Something noteworthy is if you're using Iban Blast here, to factor in the cost of death runes, as their price can significantly lower your profits. Nonetheless, the most effective way is to use magic, while activating Protect from missiles and avoiding his special attack of explosive books. Get ready to run out of the area whenever he exclaims, Rain of Knowledge. All in all, the Crazy Archaeologist is a relatively simple boss, but a simple mistake can cause damage to you with his special attack. Crazy Archaeologist will make you 107,000 GP an hour profit, but is very viable for Iron Man accounts. Imps. There are 3 imp spawns in the south of Falador, allowing for 130 or 180 kills per hour, depending on kill speed. Imps have 8 hit points, and have many drops. However, the only drops that should be picked up are the black beads, red beads, white beads, yellow beads, and mind talismans. Beads are used in the Imp Catcher quest, selling easily on the Grand Exchange. When your inventory is full, run to the East Falador Bank and deposit your drops. Food should not be needed here, as imps have very low offensive stats. Imps will occasionally teleport a short distance away after beginning combat, but they will usually still be on screen, allowing you to kill them. All combat styles will work against imps, but magic or ranged will allow for a slightly higher number of kills per hour as less time is spent running to the imps. Killing imps has no requirements. It makes you 102,000 GP an hour if you can defeat 170 of them. If you're in free to play, here's another good one for you. Monkeys. The only place that monkeys can be found in is Karamja. You can get there by talking to one of the seamen by the ship to Karamja and paying 30 coins. Make sure to bring 30 coins to get back to Port Sarim when you're done. If you don't bring 30 coins, pick then sell bananas to the general store there until you have 30 coins. Monkeys can be profitable because they always drop monkey bones. They are only level 3 with a max hit of 2, so the requirements for this method are extremely low. These monkeys run quickly, so you may want to consider ranged or magic. So you can make 86,000 GP an hour in free-to-play. Ogre Warriors. Ogre Warriors are the exact same as Ogre Shamans, but the warriors will make you less profit at 84,000 GP an hour. Cows. Level 2 cows in Lumbridge have 8 hit points and always drop a cowhide. Using any decent weapon, you are fairly likely to kill them in one hit. The recommended place to kill cows is at the Lumbridge cow field. The most efficient way to farm cows is to kill one cow, then another, and then loot the first cow's hide. This is faster than waiting for the first one to die. Once you have 27 cowhide, travel to Ellis in northwestern Al-Kharid, who would tan them into hard leather for 3 coins each. Run further south to the Al-Kharid bank the leather, and run back to the cow field and repeat. The attack speed of your weapon will be the main factor determining on your kills per hour here. A level 20 player with a Mithril Scimitar will kill them nearly as fast as a player with high level equipment, allowing you to get a consistent 300 cow hides per hour. You can also farm the raw beef from cows here as well. The beef can be cooked into sinew for 3 cooking experience each, then wound into crossbow strings for 15 crafting experience each, and sold on the Grand Exchange for 349 GP apiece. The Lumbridge Castle has a ranged spinning wheel and a bank in it, making it possible to farm up to 100 to 200 strings per hour, whilst also getting multiple kinds of experience. If you can tan 325 leather an hour, you'll make 76,000 GP an hour at a very low combat level. Hill Giants. Hill Giants are monsters that are most commonly killed in the Edgeville dungeon, which requires a brass key to enter. The spot to kill them is very crowded throughout most of the day if you're in free-to-play, so it is recommended to hop between a few worlds to find one that is rather empty. Hill Giants are aggressive towards players lower than 57 combat level, so killing them at lower levels would allow for more downtime between having to check the screen. You may choose to ignore the big bones drops here, which will lead to more experience per hour but less overall profit. Hill Giants also drop beginner clue scrolls and giant keys. The giant keys can be used to take on Obar, which commonly drops rune items and provides a big chunk of profit. At higher levels with above 80 in melee stats, it is possible to defeat around 400 Hill Giants per hour with maximum concentration. This would yield you around 3 giant keys per hour on average, and you can consistently get 50,000 melee experience per hour. But at lower levels, if you defeat just 110 Hill Giants, you'll make 63,000 GP an hour. Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Dwarves are located in the wilderness, therefore you should only bring items you are willing to lose. There are 5 Chaos Dwarf spawns in the east of the Forgotten Cemetery. Like all monsters in the wilderness, they are always aggressive regardless of your combat level and the duration of your presence. They are all level 48, but despite their relatively low level, they can prove to deal consistent damage to ill-equipped or low-level adventurers. At a combat level 100 or above, you can expect 130 kills per hour here. I do recommend to plan several escape routes in advance, in case you are unable to teleport away from danger. This has no requirements and will make you 61,000 GP an hour. Monks of Zamorak. Monks of Zamorak are found at the Chaos Temple, northwest of Goblin Village. They drop the Zamorak Monk top and the Zamorak Monk bottom. Teleport or walk to Falador and bank, then sell the Zamorak Monk robes on the Grand Exchange for 41,000 GP an hour. Black Bears. Go south of the Mine Altar where there are about 4 to 5 black bears and kill black bears until your inventory is full. Then go to Falador and deposit the loot into the bank. Bones should not be picked up as they are very cheap and give very little prayer experience, though you can bury them if you want. You should get 13 kills per inventory depending on your combat stats, and make you 37,000 GP an hour. Wizards. Wizards have 10 magic and lower strength and attack stats, so using melee against wizards is the best option. A high magic level for resistance is always helpful. They have a low hit points count of 14, making it so they can be killed quickly at higher combat levels. There are quite a few drops that stack very well, meaning that you can often stay here for quite a while without having to bank or sell. And when you do have to bank, Draenor is not far away. You can make 31,000 GP an hour profit here. Ankus. Ankus are monsters that are located on the 4th floor of the Stronghold of Security and deep in the wilderness. It is highly recommended to have rune armor when fighting Anku, otherwise they're going to be hitting you hard. Ankus have no weaknesses aside from Crumble Undead. Unless you have a high magic level and can hit hard often, melee is recommended as Ankus tend to hit hard, so defensive equipment such as rune armor is mostly recommended. The same goes with ranged. Since Anku hit hard, it is recommended to go to range only if you have a high ranged level. You can make 28,000 GP an hour profit here and get good combat experience for free to play. Hobgoblins. Hobgoblins can be found in Edgeville Dungeon and on the peninsula west of the Crafting Guild. They primarily drop limp root roots, but have a few rune and gem drops that are worth picking up. After filling up an inventory with loot, you can use a brass key as a shortcut to the bank at the Grand Exchange. You can make 27,000 GP an hour here. Chickens. Chickens can be farmed at the farm northeast of Lumbridge. Raw chicken can be sold at the Grand Exchange for 78 coins and bones can be sold at the Grand Exchange for 78 coins as well. Cooked chicken sometimes sells for more than raw chicken, so you may wish to check the prices and then cook them before selling them. The total GP you can get per chicken is around 156 to 186 coins profit each. As chickens have very few hit points, a fast-hitting weapon such as a scimitar is recommended over a slower one, such as a two-handed sword. You can make 25,000 GP an hour here, a decent way for lower levels to make money in free-to-play. Okay, let's start going back to higher level moneymakers now. The Chaos Elemental. The Chaos Elemental is a dark cloud with 6 tentacles that dwells in the members-only section of the wilderness, just west of the Rogue's Castle. This area is moderately easy to access from the Deep Wilderness teleport lever in Ardong or Edgeville. The Chaos Elemental is generally killed for its Dragon 2H sword and pickaxe drops. It also has a higher drop rate of the pet Chaos Elemental compared to the Chaos Fanatic. In addition, it is immune to venom. Any items that are able to inflict venom will inflict regular poison instead. You can make 2.4 million GP an hour here with absolutely no requirements, but higher combat stats are recommended. The Chaos Fanatic. The Chaos Fanatic is an insane mage that resides west of the Lava Maze in level 42 Wilderness. He is surrounded by unattackable miniature chaotic clouds, which serve as a scenery. He drops one of the 3 shards required to forge Odium wards and Malediction wards. He is also one of the only monsters who drop the Ancient Staff. He has a special attack where he uses a green magical attack that explodes and can deal high damage, similar to the crazy Archaeologist's explosive book attack. You must run away from them to avoid damage. He is also able to disarm you, taking your items off, much like how the Chaos Elemental does. The fastest way to get here is by casting the Gorok teleport or using its tablet equivalent. Alternatively, a burning amulet can teleport you to the entrance of the lava maze. Run west from there. And if you have the Wilderness Hard Diary completed and a POH obelisk, you can select the level 44 Wilderness teleport in your house. You can defeat Chaos Fanatic 100 times an hour for 2.2 million GP an hour profit and no requirements besides higher combat stats. Scorpia. Scorpia is a powerful wilderness boss capable of poisoning her opponents starting at 20 damage as well as hitting up to 16 with melee. Her lair located beneath the Scorpion Pit is filled with many Scorpia's offspring, which use accurate ranged attacks with a max hit of 2 and inflict poison starting at 6 damage. Once Scorpia reaches 99 health or lower, she will summon 2 Scorpia's Guardians, which will continually heal Scorpia when within a few tiles of her until they are killed or despawn. The Guardians will not respawn if killed, and will only despawn if they are too far away to heal Scorpia for 15 seconds. An effective strategy is to exploit her low magic defense by using Ice Barrage to freeze her, and as a bonus mention, Ice Burst, Ice Blitz, or Entangle will also work here. Then you want to stay out of melee range while attacking her with magic and use Protect from missiles to prevent damage from Scorpia's offspring. Once her Guardians spawn, you should wait until Scorpia is about to become unfrozen, and then quickly freeze both Guardians and lure Scorpia far away from them. This should cause the Guardians to despawn, allowing Scorpia to be easily finished off. You can make 1.8 million GP an hour profit here. Wallasalcus. Wallasalcus can be found throughout the Waterbirth Island dungeon. They attack with powerful magic and their projectile resembles Water Wave. Their magic attack can hit up to 30 damage, so Protect from Magic is highly recommended when fighting them. They also may start to run away from you, similar to the giant rock crabs after being damaged below half health. Their drops include the raw materials required for skeletal armor. They also drop various runes similar to most magical monsters, and can make you 350,000 GP an hour. The Rabbit. The Rabbit is a monster that is found in a cave in the Gwyneth Hunter area north of Perfidious. Contrary to its low combat level, it is much more dangerous than it suggests, possessing as much health as the Corporal Beast, and dealing extremely high damage coupled with a high attack speed. Unlike most monsters, the Rabbit's magic defense roll is calculated using its defense rather than its magic level. When killed, it is guaranteed to drop a Crystal Grail. The Rabbit also has a respawn time of 6 hours once killed. Damage dealt to the Rabbit gives enhanced experience rates. Due to its massive health pool, Ruby Bolts Enchanted and Ruby Dragon Bolts Enchanted are very effective against it. A practical strategy for killing the Rabbit is kiting it around the room and shooting it while avoiding being in its melee range, similar to how Commander Zelana is often killed. An alternative but easier method of slaying the Rabbit is by entering its lair, shooting it once, and leaving the lair again. You're going to want to repeat this until it's dead. However, this will take much longer and sometimes up to 30 minutes. Using defense draining weapons such as Dragon Warhammer or Bando's Godsword or using a Bone Dagger or Bone Crossbow for the first hit can be somewhat beneficial. You can realistically defeat the Rabbit twice an hour for roughly 800,000 GP an hour profit. Necreal. Necreal are demonic slayer creatures, which require a slayer level of 80 in order to harm. They are found in the Slayer Tower, and their stronger variant, Greater Necreal, can be found in the Catacombs of Corinth, Loreworth Dungeon, and the Wilderness Slayer Cave. Necreal are known for their rune boots drop, which are one of the few boots to provide a strength bonus when worn. They're also known for their frequent drop rates of seeds and combat runes. Commonly, Necreals summon death spawns to aid them, up to a limit of 2 each per Necreal. Death spawns have semi-inaccurate attacks with a max hit of 2, and their attacks attacks can hit through Protect from melee, with a cool tip being death spawns will not be summoned if the Necreal is unable to attack you back, such as when you're safe spawning it, and the death spawns will stop attacking any player who moves more than 7 tiles away from them, which is useful when fighting the more powerful Necrearch. The Arclate can be very effective against Necreal, as they are considered to be demonic creatures. Their stronger variant, the Greater Necreal, are more commonly killed with Ice Burst or Ice Barrage in the Catacombs of Corinth. Necreals require 80 Slayer overall and will make you 900,000 GP an hour profit. Dust Devils. A Dust Devil is a Slayer monster that requires level 65 Slayer to kill. They are located in the Smoke Dungeon, Catacombs of Corinth, and in the Wilderness Slayer Cave as well. The use of a face mask or a Slayer helmet is required to fight Dust Devils, or their attacks will always hit for 16 damage. Fully drain your attack, strength, ranged, and magic levels, and 50% of your agility, defense, and prayer levels. They are also popular for bursting, barraging, and chinning in the Catacombs of Corinth or Smoke Dungeon on task. Dust Devils can make you 700,000 GP an hour profit. Locust Riders. Locust Riders are encountered during the Contact quest. Inside the Sophanum dungeon, the level 98 Riders attack using somewhat slow but strong ranged attacks with a max hit of 22. The level 106 version uses a spear for melee and has a lower max hit of 15, but attacks faster than the Rangers. You will need to bring a light source when you're in this dungeon. Locust Riders are scattered throughout the dungeon, so protection prayers and good food are recommended, especially if multiple Riders are encountered. The Karis Dagger and Karis Partisan special effects work against them. A good strategy to kill these is wear prayer boosting armor, such as Proselyte armor, and use Protect from missiles as the Rangers can hit harder than the meleeers and from further away. When your prayer gets low, go back to Sophanum and recharge your prayer at the High Priest's altar, or after the completion of Beneath Cursed Sands, the altar right above the bank. You can make 360,000 GP an hour farming these. Salarin. Salarin the Twisted is a Chaos Druid found at the end of the Yanil Agility dungeon. Reaching his cave requires level 67 agility. This can be boosted from as low as 62 with the Summer Pie. Additionally, you'll need to bring a blade to cut the webs near the dungeon entrance. Salarin is one of the 2 NPCs that drop the Sinister Key on death, alongside the Chaos Fanatic. This key opens the Sinister Chest, located nearby, which rewards you with a guaranteed noted drop of 9 grimy herbs. The key is dropped at a rate of 7.8%, and unlike other druids, he is only damaged by strike spells. You can make a nice 240,000 GP per hour here. Zombie Pirates. Zombie Pirates can be found at the Chaos Temple in the Wilderness. Zombie Pirates have an uncommon chance to drop Adamant Seeds, teleport anchoring scrolls, and Zombie Pirate keys. The Pirates also have a chance of dropping Lorenz keys off task. They are incredibly consistent money, with a good chance to pull a big money drop in the teleport anchoring scrolls as long as you're using the keys they drop. This monster makes 2.1 million GP an hour. Wintertodt. The Wintertodt is a minigame style boss that is fought using skills rather than combat. It is located in the northern tundras in Great Corinth, bringing a storm of perpetual winter and extreme cold. According to the Lookout, it is unclear what the Wintertodt actually is, but its ability to alter the weather to be extremely low temperatures has earned it notoriety among the people of Great Corinth. You must assist Pyromancers, a special group of Archaeus mages, to keep Wintertodt at bay. As servants of the Sacred Flame, only they know the spells required to subdue the Wintertodt, so they are heavily relied upon in the defense of Great Corinth. While their magical abilities are extraordinary, their skills in other areas are limited, and thus require assistance from skilled adventurers like you. In order to help subdue the Wintertodt, you're required to have at least level 50 in fire making. Skill levels in herbal or fletching, woodcutting, and construction do not affect the speed of the related activities at all in there. However, when having higher levels, you'll be granted more experience for doing the tasks. Wintertodt can make you a steady 300 and 400,000 GP an hour, and it's pretty fun. Temporos. Temporos is another skilling boss, also known as the Spirit of the Sea. It is an ancient entity believed to be as old as Gillinor itself. It is able to create intense storms that make sailing difficult, and has recently awoken after having laid dormant for centuries, wreaking havoc upon sailors who were unfortunate enough to cross its path in the seas. You must help the anglers subdue Temporos by draining its essence to 0. To do this, you must first deplete its energy by firing cannons around the decks of both ships, using harpoon fish as ammunition. The fish are gathered via harpoon spots, found in the waters around the island, and can optionally be cooked to deal more damage. Occasionally, a fishing spot will have a jumping harpoon fish. Fishing at these spots allows for the chance of catching 2 harpoon fish at a time. Raw harpoon fish drain 10 energy per fish, while cooked fish drain 15 energy per fish. In a solo encounter, Temporos has 266 energy at 100%. Once its energy is depleted to 0, Temporos will submerge and the second phase of the fight will begin. During this phase, you must catch energized fish from Temporos by fishing at the whirlpool at the end of each dock. Doing so will reduce its essence. If the essence depletes to 0 before Temporos has fully restored its energy, it will retreat, and the encounter will be successful. However, if Temporos fully regains its energy before its essence is fully depleted, it will emerge, and the first phase of the fight will repeat again. Any essence depleted from Temporos in the second phase will remain depleted. This cycle can be repeated up to 3 times, after which Temporos will gain too much energy, becoming enraged, and the encounter will end unsuccessfully. This boss's GP an hour is heavily based upon your fishing level, the loot improving as your fishing level does, and it's about 11 kills an hour. And to give you an idea, with 70 fishing, you can make around 100,000 GP an hour here. Zalcano. Zalcano is a demon imprisoned beneath Perfidious that is fought using skilling rather than conventional combat as well, just like Temporos and Wintertide. With him being immune to traditional combat damage, you must use your mining, smithing, and runecrafting skills to create imbued Tempora, to create imbued Tefra capable of destroying her stone armor. Once her armor has been destroyed, you must damage her by mining her with a pickaxe. Zalcano's prison can be accessed from Perfidious' Trihyron district via a teleport platform just west of the southeastern bank. As Perfidious requires completion of Song of the Elves to access, Zalcano requires a minimum of 70 mining and smithing to be fought, though higher levels in mining, smithing, and runecrafting will be advantageous, as well as higher hit points to withstand her various attacks. Zalcano can get you a consistent 1.4 million GP an hour profit. Gargoyles. Gargoyles are Slayer monsters located in the Slayer Tower's top floor and basement, requiring 75 Slayer in order to be harmed. Gargoyles, like rock slugs, cannot be killed normally. In order to kill a gargoyle, a rock hammer, a rock thrown hammer, or a granite hammer must be used when they reach 8 hit points or lower. Normally, the item must be used on the gargoyle, but you can buy the Gargoyle Smasher perk from the Slayer Master for 120 Slayer points, which will automatically smash the gargoyle when it falls to 9 or lower hit points, provided that you have a rock hammer in your inventory. The granite hammer will automatically smash gargoyles even without the perk if it's equipped. Because of the number of rune item drops, it is recommended to bring high-level alchemy runes to reduce the frequency of banking and save inventory space here, so you can accumulate your 612,000 GP an hour profit. Disciples of Ivan. Disciples of Ivan always drop both Zamrock monk tops and bottoms. Because of this, they can be very lucrative to kill. However, Disciples of Ivan disappear after the completion of the Underground Pass. To kill Disciples, you'll have to go through Underground Pass until you reach the 4th area. The Disciples are found on the stone paths just before Ivan's throne room. Since there are not enough disciples to fill up an entire inventory with robes, switch worlds until you have done so. Consider filling up your final inventory space with a robe bottom, as it's worth more. Then teleport to Ferox Enclave using a Ring of Dueling. Bank your robes, go inside the Clan Wars portal to reset your stats and run energy, and repeat. And you can make a nice 596,000 GP an hour with very low requirements. Ents. Ents are monsters found in the dungeon beneath the Woodcutting Guild and in the forests north and east of the Chaos Temple in the wilderness. Upon death, their remains can be chopped to give several sets of noted logs according to your woodcutting level. You also have a chance to receive a bird's nest while chopping the Ent trunk. While cutting the trunk, you'll get 25 experience per set of logs received no matter what type. Completing the medium wilderness diary increases the chance of successfully chopping Ents in the wilderness by 15%. Ents can be safe spotted by moving 1 to 3 tiles adjacent to a tree and using a ranged weapon, halberd, or magic attack. Chopping the trunks requires an axe that you have the woodcutting level to use, with the type of logs being determined by your base woodcutting level. And if you have a higher woodcutting level, you will be receiving better logs from your Ent kills. The distribution of the log types is also determined by your axe used, with better axes providing a greater amount of higher tier logs. Ents can make you 541,000 GP an hour if you're doing them in the wilderness. Not bad. Sarachnis. Sarachnis, the mother of the temple spiders, is a mid-level boss found in the Forthos dungeon, in a former burial tomb south of the spider den. She can be killed as part of a spider slayer task. You'll need a slash weapon or a knife to access the part of the dungeon where Sarachnis is located. Run into the south side of the cave to find her lair. Sarachnis attacks with melee when you are adjacent to her, and ranged when you are out of melee range. She also heals upon dealing damage. Her attacks are accurate and can hit up to 31, so it is important to pray against her attacks correctly. Every 4 attacks, she will bind you with a web that deals no damage but prevents you from moving for a few seconds, and will then move somewhere else in the arena. You should use protect from missiles when Sarachnis shoots the web to block her next range attack. Then quickly close to melee range and switch back to protect from melee. If done perfectly, you'll take no damage from her attacks. When fighting Sarachnis with 2 or more players, she will only target 1 player after she moves if the targeted player is out of her melee range. She'll use her ranged attack on everyone in the arena. If the targeted player moves within melee range, she will only attack the targeted player with melee. At 66% 30% and 33% health, Cerachnus will summon 2 spawns of Cerachnus, an orange melee user on the west side of the room and a blue magic user on the east side of the room. It is recommended to tank the hits from the melee spawn and kill the magic spawn when it appears, and while doing this, you should play ranged as Cerachnus' ranged attacks are more dangerous than the spawns. She is weak to crush weapons and has a high magic and range defense. Therefore, it is recommended to bring high strength bonus equipment and a crush weapon like the Elder Maul, Abyssal Bludgeon, or Cerachnus Cudgel, paired with a defense reducing special attack such as the Dragon Warhammer or Bandos Godsword. Dragon Claws or a Crystal Halberd are recommended here for their special attacks if the previously mentioned weapons are not available to you. Using Obsidian Armor with the Tazar Ket or Varek the Defiled equipment sets are also viable options. A budget option, especially for mid-level players, is the Zombie Axe due to its exceptional crush bonus, as well as a high strength bonus and being able to cut through the web just before her lair. Dragon Mace is also a feasible option for lower level players, having a convenient prayer bonus and a special attack which can be used to quickly dispose of minions. You'll be able to make 444,000 GP per hour profit here. Blue Dragons. Blue Dragons always drop Dragon Bones and Blue Dragon Hides, which sell for 3,501 GP and 1,552 GP respectively. This makes each Blue Dragon worth 5,553 coins. The dragons can be attacked safely and effectively with ranged or magic. For engaging the dragons with melee, 90 plus combat or higher is recommended. If using melee, it is highly recommended for you to bring gear that offers protection against dragon fire, accessible very quickly with a games necklace. You'll want to bank in the Rogue's Den, though it may be difficult to find an empty world doing this method. When using the Taverley dungeon, each trip will require a few minutes to bank the hides and bones. The best method of banking is to teleport to Falador using a Falador teleport tablet. Bank at Falador West Bank and return to the dungeon. Use the shortcut in the western wall of the city and run to the northwest of the dungeon entrance. With 70 agility, the agility shortcut to the Blue Dragon area may be used, and running from Falador West Bank to this area of the dungeon only takes a couple of minutes. This shortcut can be used at 65 agility, but will require the use of a Summer Pie to boost you to 70 agility. It is recommended to use this pipe shortcut, as it is very time consuming to run around the dungeon. Your kills per hour here may be maximized by picking up drops in rotation, as it takes a second or two for each dragon's drops to appear after being killed. You can make 538,000 GP an hour farming Blue Dragons. The Calphite Queen. The Calphite Queen, also called KQ, is the strongest of the Calphites. The Calphite Queen, along with Dust Devils and Smoke Devils, is notable for dropping the Dragon Chain Body. The Calphite Queen is also notable as one of the 2 places outside of the wilderness where you can obtain a Dragon Pickaxe, the other being the Volcanic Mine. The Calphite Queen can inflict large amounts of damage with her ranged and magic attacks, as they always result in a successful hit. It is recommended for you to bring an emergency teleport such as an Ectophile, Royal Seed Pod, or Teleport Tablet, or only bring items into the lair for which you are willing to pay the gravestone fees on. You can make 498,000 GP an hour farming KQ. Ice Troll Runts. Killing Ice Troll Runts is another good money-making method that is not very well known, and it only requires the completion of the Fremnic Trials and base 60 melee stats. Although good magic stats would probably be best since the Ice Troll Runts weakness is fire spells. They are only level 74, but do not underestimate them as they can hit up to 15 damage accurately. The main reason it is suggested to kill them is because the honor guards nearby will slaughter them, and if you land a single hit, you will receive the drops, which consist of rune kite shields, rune warhammers, and even the granite shield. They also drop decent amounts of nature runes, law runes, and raw sharks, as well as herbs and seeds. But the most notable ones are the grimy Renar weed and the Renar seed. Many items in their drop table, such as coal and balls of wool, drop as notes, which can be added up to make a decent profit as well. A whole inventory of their uncommon to rare drops can range from 70,000 to 700,000 coins or more, depending on how lucky you are. This monster will make you 426,000 GP an hour and requires the completion of Fremnic Isles. Brutal Red Dragons. Brutal Reds may be found in the catacombs of Corinth. They have 100% drops of dragon bones and 2 red dragon hides, thus making them worth over 7.5k coins per kill. It is recommended to bring 1 to 2 prayer potions depending on your prayer level, a divine ranging potion, and an extended anti-fire. Protect from magic should always be activated, or death is certain due to their extremely powerful magic attacks as well as dragon fire. Together, Protect from magic and anti-fire nullify all the damage from a distance, but you have to make sure they are both on simultaneously. Depending on your setup skills and inventory space, you can expect around 35 dragons worth of loot an hour. You can choose to bring a Zerich's Talisman to teleport to the statue above the catacombs, using the Zerich's Heart option, and bank in the castle, where there is an altar just south outside of the room the bank is in. You can make 418,000 GP an hour farming these. Temple Trekking. Escort Hard Companions along Route 1. The aim is to complete runs as quickly as possible to maximize the number of Nail Beast encounters. So use the Evade Encounter left click option to skip any of the combat encounters, and use the Mortania Legs 3 to teleport out of the bog event. It's faster just to start again than to complete it. Repeat this back and forth between Paterdomus and Berg de Ra. Use reward tokens on bowstrings, giving a minimum of 100 bowstrings per run. Alternatively, use the tokens on XP tomes for early progression of agility, fire making, fishing, mining, slayer, thieving, and woodcutting, while still earning profit from the nail beast nails. Assuming 35 successful easy treks per hour, this would net you roughly 45,000 XP across the 7 possible skills, on top of the XP gained during combat. This minigame will make you 386,000 GP an hour and requires In Aid of Myricky and Darkness of Hollowvale. Skogres. Skogres and Zogres can be found in jigging during and after the Zogre Flesh Eaters quest, and they always drop the Ogre Coffin keys that are used to loot Ogre coffins. Since the bones from the coffins are quite valuable, the keys are valuable and the Skogres/Zogres can be very worthwhile to kill. The undead ogres are located south of Castle Wars in the main jigging area past the Skull Barrier. The easiest way to get here and to bank is by using a Ring of Dueling. They are combat level 44 and have only 71 hit points, but there's a hitch. Unless you're using the Ogre Combo and Brutal Arrows, your damage will be reduced by 80% of what it would normally be if you use any other weapon and ammunition. Using melee is not recommended as the Zogres and Skogres have a long death animation, and it's worth it to kill one, walk over to it, attack another one from a distance, and pick up the key once it shows up. A good ranging method is killing one or two and running out and getting the drops, the coffin keys, and Zogre bones. And you'll also want to pick up any arrows you lost too. Bury the bones as soon as you get them and try not to bury more than 3 or 4 at a time. In jigging, when you bury a bone, then there's a chance that an aggressive Skogre will spawn. It should only take 10 to 20 seconds to kill one even with the damage penalty, so a full inventory might take 8 to 10 minutes. Banking is very quick at Castle Wars, and after you've finished, sell your keys on the Grand Exchange, but keep in mind as the Ogre Coffin keys have a very low buying limit, you may be able to sell them in bulk for a higher price. Alternatively, you could loot the coffins with the keys you have obtained, making sure not to use the same coffin each time, as it seems that you get more orc bones if you alternate between 2 to 3 coffins with each key used. This is more efficient since it saves banking time and can be even used between monster respawns. This is a slow but effective money making method for low ranged and low combat players, but you can make 364,000 GP an hour here. Jubsters. Jubsters may be killed for their 100% drop rate of raw jubbly, which are used in cooking to make cooked jubblies. These creatures may be created in the Tower of Life by placing a raw lobster and raw jubbly on the Jubster altar. If you haven't completed the Easy Ardong Diary, the profit you receive from this method will be diminished. Banking may be done via the Fairy Ring, code DJP, and returning to the Tower of Life may be done via the Fairy Ring once more, or using the Ardong Cloak teleport to the Kandarin Monastery. At high levels, up to 25 trips per hour are possible, and can make you 356,000 GP an hour. Spidines. Spidines may be killed for their 100% drop rate of red spider's eggs, which are used in Herblore to make super restores. These creatures may be created in the Tower of Life by placing a raw sardine and red spider's eggs on the southern eastern altar. Spidines have a combat level of 42 and attack using melee. If you haven't completed the medium Ardong Diary, it is recommended to bring 8 to 9 raw sardines and 1 spider's egg each trip, and use the remaining inventory spaces for teleportation items. However, your profit per hour will be severely decreased. Banking may be done via the Fairy Ring using code DJP. Returning to the Tower of Life may be done via the Fairy Ring once more, or using the Ardong Cloak teleport to the Kandarin Monastery, just like with the Jubsters. At high levels, up to 25 trips per hour are possible, and can make you 293,000 GP an hour. The King Black Dragon. The King Black Dragon, commonly referred to as KBD, is a 3-headed dragon located in his lair, accessible only through the deep wilderness. Although the lair itself is not in the wilderness, KBD is considered a wilderness boss by designation, as you must enter the wilderness to fight him. The King Black Dragon has a combat level of 276, which makes him one of the strongest dragons in old school RuneScape. And he should always take an anti-dragon shield, as his dragon fire breath is very deadly without protection. While the King Black Dragon's lair is entered from within the wilderness, his lair itself is not part of the wilderness, so you cannot attack each other in his lair. Completion of the Wilderness Diary also does not note his bone drops. You can optionally pay 50,000 coins to open an instance version of his lair by right-clicking the private option on the lever, where it will be inaccessible by other players. This fee can be deducted directly from your bank, so you do not need to carry coins on you to create this instance. Items dropped by the King Black Dragon in this instance will disappear after 1800 seconds, which is 30 minutes. However, items dropped by you will disappear after the typical 180 seconds, which is 3 minutes. KBD can make you 277k an hour if you get 30 kills, though it is possible to get up to 50 kills an hour with the lance and a Slayer task, making you 694,000 GP per hour profit. Feral Vampires. Due to the use of vampire dust in the Hallowed Sepulchre, killing feral vampires has become a viable moneymaker for mid-level accounts. The vampires are combat level 61 with a max hit of 7. They only attack with melee and aren't very accurate. Feral vampires are the easiest way to obtain vampire dust, which are 908 GP apiece, as they drop it at a 100% rate. The dust should be picked up after every kill. Drops such as coins, herbs, unless Ranar, and seeds should be ignored. Feral vampires do have a chance to lower your strength by 1 if they hit. Drinking a strength potion will easily counter this effect. Mid-level players can expect around 200 kills per hour. Higher level players with a combat level 100 plus can expect around 250, and max players can expect 300 plus. Epherate's aid can be worn to gain a 10% damage bonus against feral vampires, although the upkeep cost for this ring will eat into your profits. You can bank your drops using the nearby bank in Berg the Rot. The Mortania Legs 3 can be used for slightly faster banking trips, but is not required for efficient rates. These vampires also drop medium clue scrolls at the rate of 1 out of 128. These can be completed when dropped for a potential boost in GP, and you can enjoy your 224,000 GP per hour here. The Whisperer. The Whisperer is a siren found in the sunken cathedral of the Lasar Undercity, who was encountered during Desert Treasure 2, The Fallen Empire, a high-ranking personnel of the Zoroastrian Empire. The Whisperer succumbed to the darkness of the Blackstone. You must bring the Blackstone fragment to initiate the fight, as parts of the fight will require you to enter the Shadow Realm. Without it, your player will refuse to fight her. She spawns as an odd figure, which while aggressive is not able to attack. Disturbing her will cause her to fully emerge and attack. During the fight, you must maintain your sanity levels, which starts at 100%. Getting hit by tentacles or failing to avoid her special attacks will drain sanity by a varying amount. 20% for a tentacle, 15% for the corrupted seeds, and 40% for a screech attack. While in the Shadow Realm, you will lose 3% of your sanity and 3 prayer points every few ticks, so it is best to minimize the time spent inside to avoid unnecessary prayer drain. If your sanity fully depletes, you will go insane, taking damage that will eventually result in death. It is required to teleport out of this if it occurs to avoid dying. The Whisperer's regular attack involves shooting 3 projectiles per attack in either ranged or magic. The ranged shots are purple barbs, while the magic shots are blue orbs. Protection prayers will fully block the attacks and they will deal damage upon impact. The pattern of these projectiles will change depending on how far into the fight you are. After each regular attack, 4 shadow tentacles will surface 4 tiles from you in an X formation, converging on the tile they were on when they first appeared. Getting hit by this will deal 20 damage and drain your sanity by 20%, regardless of how many shadow tentacles actually hit you. If you are standing next to under her, she will utilize a melee attack that hits twice, with the second hit dealing the same as the first and is only partially reduced by prayer. The Whisperer will follow one of 2 special attack rotations each kill: Screech, Lost Souls, Corrupted Seeds, or Corrupted Seeds, Screech, and Lost Souls. She will queue up a special attack upon reaching 80%, 55%, and 30% of her health on the next attack she makes, should her health fall below this threshold. After each special attack, the Whisperer will launch a binding projectile at you regardless of your distance from her, after which she will attempt to walk towards you for 10 tiles to melee you. During this time, she'll be temporarily susceptible to most binds, which will apply even if the attack splashes and force her to stop moving. It is possible for her to not use this after the first special attack and instead immediately attack you, though the projectile is always guaranteed after the second and third special attacks. Her attack patterns will also change after every special attack. After the first special attack, she will start attacking with 2 projectiles of one style and one of the other. After the second special attack, she'll begin utilizing a plus tentacle pattern along the X pattern. Finally, after the third special attack, she will alternate between both combat styles. Upon reaching 0 health, the Whisperer will heal 140 hit points and pull you into the Shadow Realm. She'll always attack with ranged, changes combat styles after every 2 attacks, and a single tentacle will appear for every attack she makes. This boss is 4 million GP an hour if you're able to secure 20 kills an hour, and requires Desert Treasure 2 as its only quest completion. Phosani's Nightmare. Phosani's Nightmare is a more difficult version of the Nightmare, encountered by selecting Drink From on the Pool of Nightmares in the Sisterhood Sanctuary. Phosani's Nightmare can only be fought alone, and the game encourages you to have at least 1 normal Nightmare kill before attempting Phosani's Nightmare. Trying to attempt the boss without any Nightmare kill count will result in an initial warning advising you to do so, though you may ignore it and proceed to this boss fight. It also possesses 2 unique drops the original lacks: the Slepe Tablet, which allows you access to the Nightmare even quicker, and the Parasitic Egg, Egg, an item that unlocks a cosmetic skin for the Little Nightmare pet. Overall, you can make 4 million GP an hour farming Fosanis. Spindel. Killing Spindel counts as a Venatus alternative for a boss slayer task. This boss is in the wilderness, so being PK'd is possible, but you can make 3.9 million GP an hour here. Duke Succulus. Unlike the other Desert Treasure bosses, Duke Succulus is not available to fight immediately. Rather, he is in a deep slumber and must be weakened with mushrooms or Ardor Musca poison before he is forcibly woken up to fight. When in melee range and a few other select tiles, Duke Succulus will raise his arms, causing icicles to spike up from the ground and follow up with a slam attack. The slam attack is significantly more powerful than the icicles and will deal heavy damage, even with Protect from Melee enabled. If you are outside of melee range and not on those other select tiles, Succulus will spit a magical cluster of energy that also deals high damage, even through Protect from Magic. After 5 standard attacks, he will unleash a freezing gaze at you, dealing massive damage if you are not hiding behind a pillar. After the first iteration of this attack, he will launch a gas flare after 3 auto attacks that ignites the vent closest to your account. As his health lowers, Succulus will begin to change up his attack rotation, such as 2 auto attacks before a gas flare and launching its 2 flares per iteration upon reaching 50% of his health. Upon reaching 25% of his health, Succulus will enter an enraged phase, attacking 1 tick faster, launching gas flares 1 auto attack after freezing gaze, or alternating between 1 or 2 sets of gas flares in each attack rotation. Overall, you can make 3.8 million GP profit here, and it's pretty fun to do. The Giant Mole. The Giant Mole is located in the tunnels beneath Falador Park. A spade is required to enter her lair. A light source is also needed to be able to see in the dark tunnels. A bullseye lantern, bruma torch, or candle headgear is highly recommended. Any candles, torches, or oil lamps will be extinguished if she retreats within melee range. If you're using an unprotected light source such as a candle, you will need a tinderbox to reignite it. If you have achieved 99 fire making, you can also bring the fire making skill cape either equipped or in your inventory, as it will act as a light source that cannot extinguish. Alternatively, if you have completed the quest Making Friends with My Arm and have lit the fire pit within the lair, you will no longer need to carry a light source in your inventory. This boss requires the Falador Heart Diary to do effectively and will make you 1.7 million GP an hour. The Leviathan is a large sea creature found within the Scar, who is encountered during Desert Treasure 2. Once dwelling in the Eastern Sea, the Leviathan was inadvertently dragged into the Scar during the Battle for the Eye when Perseria accidentally opened an abyssal rift in an attempt to teleport reinforcements in. It has since then adapted to the abyssal environment and has made itself at home in a large lake within the Scar, preying upon those who were unfortunate enough to be pulled into the Scar during the battle. This is seen clearly on accounts of survivors and what remains of the Zerosian fleet in the area. The Leviathan is best fought with ranged. Attempting to attack the Leviathan with melee will result in the following message: your melee attacks cannot reach the lure. The boss fight is initiated upon climbing into the arena, where we use a volley of rapid firing attacks which deal damage upon impact. Protection prayers will fully block these attacks. The Leviathan will attack with random volleys of colored orbs: magic, blue, ranged, green, and melee, orange, at varying attack speeds throughout the fight. At the end of each volley, the boss will roar and cause debris to fall onto your player, potentially restricting movement and obstructing line of sight. Every subsequent volley of attacks will increase in attack speed, which can become very difficult to switch prayers for players at later volleys. The boss can also bite you in the tiles right next to the pool, which deals melee damage. At any point during the sequence, you can cast shadow spells to stun the Leviathan, which will always succeed, where it will stay still for 15 ticks. Damage against it is capped at 10 when stunned, but you can run around to attack its backside to deal a large amount of damage, which will cause it to retaliate with a special attack. This also resets the Leviathan's attack speed to the beginning of the 2-tick attacks. Upon reaching 180 hit points, the Leviathan will begin the enrage phase. Its attack speed will now stay at 2 ticks, losing the ability to launch orange melee orbs, while an Abyssal Pathfinder will spawn to the northwest of the arena and will begin to move clockwise. You must stay within the Pathfinder's area of effect in order to gain increased accuracy and damage, along with full protection of its attacks. Otherwise, its attacks will pierce through prayer. The Leviathan can make you 3.7 million GP an hour if you want to farm it. Firewatch Sentinels. Firewatch Sentinels are stronger variants of the Firewatch and can be fought after completing Sins of the Father quest. They can be found prowling the streets of the upper class areas of Darkmire in search of unruly humans to snack on. The Firewatch Sentinels are the only monsters that drop the Blood Shard, although they can be obtained via pickpocketing the various Vire citizens throughout the city. As with all members of the Firewatch, they can only be harmed with the Ivandis Flail or the Blisterwood Flail. Despite being invulnerable to any damage from a Saradomin Godsword, special attacks will still heal and restore prayer points as if they would have dealt damage. They're often killed off task as an AFK moneymaker, because they can be killed next to an altar and they never become tolerant, as long as you're not wearing Vire Noble robes. The Sentinels can make you 652,000 DP an hour, and that is the 100 most profitable monsters in old school RuneScape. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, come let me know in Discord and live on stream.